Monteria Robinson is the mother of Jamarian Robinson, the 26-year-old star athlete who was shot 76 times in August of 2016 while he was being served with a warrant at an apartment complex in Georgia. He had been recently diagnosed with schizophrenia before the incident, and that officers weren't prepared for the confrontation and used excessive force with efforts to take Robinson into custody. But instead, he was riddled with almost 100 bullets in numerous places in the apartment. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Robinson, and we offer our sincere condolences for your son.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, what do you want us to know about the type of person that your son was?
Well, actually, Jamarian Robinson, who was he? He was actually a student athlete at Tuskegee University. He was actually a biology major. He played football and ran track for Tuskegee University. Jamarian was the oldest of 8 grandchildren. Jamarian was actually my firstborn son. Jamarian comes from a 4-generation military college-educated family. My sisters and I, we would call Jamarian Daddy Daycare, actually because he was always our daycare provider. My sisters and I would always, go to different events in the city or attend different meetings. So Jamarian was always our babysitter. So we would say, oh, we'll get Daddy Daycare to do it. But as a person, Jamarian was smart. He was intelligent. He was humorous. He was athletic. He was, he was a good person. I remember after his football games, Jamarian would always ask one of his teammates, if they would like to join him and I for dinner. And of course, his teammates would go, oh, yes, great. I would love to go to, have dinner with you and your mom. So we always would take one of his teammates. He was always making sure that his teammate or one of his friends was always taken care of when he was in college. Jamarian, he was just a loving, caring person. Every time he saw me or my sisters or his grandmothers, he would always greet us with a smile and a hug. He would always pick us up, spin us around.
So he was a kind soul.
But he was always showing love.
He was a kind person.
Correct.
So, even more of a loss, I'm sure, for you with him being such a sweet and kind person. I can only imagine what you've been dealing with. But as far as the case goes, we know that no body cams were recorded with the shooting because the U.S. Marshals don't wear body cams, which I've found. They don't serve warrants with these body cameras. Paul Howard, the Fulton County District Attorney, is pushing for stricter laws on national officers, not just local police, to have the cameras. Because of this, what is the status of when the names of the officers involved will be released?
Well, actually, we do have the names of the officers.
Okay.
Actually, 3 of those officers were served on January 16th of 2019 this year. 3 of those officers were served with a subpoena to appear before the grand jury. And actually, they were supposed to appear on February the 5th of this year. But on January the 28th, the DOJ and Paul Howard is the Fulton County District Attorney of Atlanta, Georgia, where my son was killed at. The DOJ, which is the U.S. Attorney General B.J. Pack and Paul Howard, did come to an agreement to temporarily suspend the subpoenas. The DOJ is claiming or stating that Paul Howard didn't, I would say, the policies and procedures. He didn't do the correct filing. I would say in order to subpoena these officers, but those officers were supposedly to appear before the grand jury on this past February 5th. But as I stated, it has temporarily been suspended. So we are anticipating next month, which would be March the 5th of 2019, that those officers are supposed to go before the grand jury. And they are, the charges that are being brought on them, a few of the charges is felony murder, burglary, and oath of an officer, along with 8 other counts.
My goodness. So there's up to 8 counts for some of these officers. You said 3 total. will be charged, or more than 3?
Actually, right now they have 3 that has been subpoenaed, and as I stated, it has been temporarily placed on hold due to Paul Howard needing to file the proper paperwork according to the federal level.
Okay. Well, what efforts have the local leaders in Georgia taken to assure this doesn't happen again to another young man?
Well, actually, I would say that Paul Howard is the only one just recently that has came and stated, hey, I'm ready to take this case on. I'm ready to move forward. My staff, my team, we are ready to go, full speed ahead on this case. It has been 2.5 years. My family and I have been waiting patiently, but I know a case of this magnitude does take quite some time. Right. So we have faith that the system, will work in our favor. So Paul Howard has been aggressively, I do know, where I'm going to take you back to December the 28th of last year, 2018, Paul Howard did file a federal lawsuit against the Department of Justice based upon the fact that they did not release the records pertaining to my son's death. So that's why the Department of Justice responded back to Paul Howard January the 16th stating, hey, this was not done properly. You need to do it based on the federal level. So that's why everything has been temporarily placed on hold.
I understand. So from all of that, with the paperwork being filed, what are going to be the next steps with that?
So the next steps, actually Paul Howard, the Fulton County, Paul Howard did state to me that that we're still going to move forward and that the next grand jury, they convene in March of next month. And that date that we're anticipating is March the 5th. So that's the next date that the grand jury convenes. So we are looking forward to that date. My family and I, we are very hopeful, that this would, finally play its course. As I stated before, it has been 2.5 years. We've been waiting for quite some time, and we want to see justice. I want to see justice. My family and I, we want to see justice for my son Monteria Robinson. He did not deserve to be executed in such a heinous manner.
Of course. And of course your mission, along with seeking justice, I've seen your pictures that you have where you've been marching. You have hashtag Justice for Jam. I admire you for your dedication to this cause and to get justice for him. What do you feel is your mission along with seeking justice for him? What do you want people to know about this case and, how to prevent this for the future?
Well, actually, number one, my mission is being the voice for Jamarian. My son is not here to tell his story. Right. So that's why I've been out here diligently fighting this case, to elevate my voice so that my voice can be heard. I will not be silenced as his mother. This has been a 2.5-year process for me and my family. And my ultimate goal is to bring about change. We need to get laws. I would like to see laws put in place where these officers are mandated to wear body cameras. Because as you know, they did turn off their body cameras when my son was killed. And to me, it's like, if you want us to believe what actually happened, show us the footage. Without body camera, it's like my word against their word. And so that's why I, as his mother, when the false narrative was dropped that it was initially a shootout, I immediately hired my own investigator, my own forensic person, my own ballistic person to prove what actually happened to my son. And with all that being said, I'm able to prove what happened to my son. So that's why the state has to move forward, because the evidence is too overwhelming for them to ignore.
Oh, I'm sure. And with all that said, what advice can you give others who have young black sons, young black daughters, to possibly prevent this kind of terrible incident?
Well, actually, to be honest, the advice that, that you can give any young man or brown or black kid would be, when they're faced with this the case of, I would say, when they're faced with a police officer, you can't only, the only thing you can do is comply. And I would hope that we all teach our children to comply with those in authority. And in my situation, I've always taught my sons to comply, to be obedient, so on and so forth. But my son was still executed, and my son did comply. My son, he put his hands up, and I don't know if you've seen any of the footage. My son was shot 6 times in the palm of his right hand and 5 times in the palm of his left hand. I just would advise people to, just to pray. Tell your kids, your brown and black kids, to comply, and you have to pray for them. You have to pray over them that they will. I just hope they're never faced with the type of officers that my son was faced with on that day, because as you are aware, we see this every day in the news.
We do.
Where there is a hunt, for brown and black children, and this is happening every single day. One brown or black person is killed by police. So I would tell, I would advise people to, tell your kids to apply. When a gun is in their face, when a police officer, is there with a gun in their face, they can only thing they can do is comply and pray.
I agree. Well, Miss Monteria Robinson, mother of Jamarian Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing from your investigator again soon.